Howdy heck and hello, H2Os, Roller Bros, and Jess O's alike. I'm your guy to Q. Welcome to a late video because sleep and taking care of yourself properly is overrated, right? She asks, you were a smoker? Yeah, I used to be a smoker, and I just felt terrible all the time every single day, so I couldn't recommend anything any less. But I found this Ask Reddit thread that really, got me intrigued. When you're lying in bed at night, do you ever randomly remember some relatively minor social misstep or poorly chosen words you did or said years earlier, and then beat yourself up over it even though it wasn't really a big deal? If so, what happened? And I have one of these. I'm probably gonna save it for the end, but I'm really excited to see what these people have to say. Alex G. Vincent says, when I was 11, it was my first day at a new school, and all the other students were also new. The math teacher started our first class by asking each of us our educational background, what school we came from, what they taught us in our last year's math class, etc. Just trying to get a general idea of what kind of students he was dealing with. Thing is, I was so nervous that I spaced out for a bit and got lost in my overthinking mind, so I didn't hear the teacher's questions to my classmates. When it got to be my turn, the teacher just said, "Now, tell me about you," assuming I understood what kind of information he was expecting. I just went straight into a monologue that started with, "So, I was born in the South Zone." I don't know why the kid has the same voice as the teacher. "So, I was born in the South Zone of the city, but my mom decided to move out to our current neighborhood a few months after divorcing my dad," and went on giving some very specific details about my short life. Everyone had really confused looks on their faces, and as soon as I realized the teacher was also completely lost, I stopped talking and went instantly red. The teacher then said, "That's all really great, but I was only interested in what happened last year, not the last 10, and everyone started laughing. Next day, nobody remembered it anymore, but 12 years later, it still comes to mind in pretty random moments. Bro, I feel like the kicker is that everybody started laughing. That cements that you messed up, especially if the teacher says something like, "We asked what happened in the last year, not the last 10. It's almost like a punchline, which is why it makes sense that everybody laughed, but god, that sucks. Alright, this one is absolutely brutal, and this is coming from somebody who has experienced a lot of first-hand embarrassment in my life. Akumu says, for most of my education, I went to public school, and like most kids, I was socially awkward. For high school, I received an academic scholarship to a private Catholic school. It was a really big deal for my family. I didn't know anyone at the new school. Between an odd combination of academics, sports, and the tail end of puberty, I became very popular in this new school. I wasn't used to the attention, and it definitely got to my teenage head. Nearly all of my social circles became around the new school and not with my old local friends. In my junior year, I head to a McDonald's for lunch with a few friends from the new school. Working the counter, I see a girl who I used to go to public school with that I used to have a crush on. She just lit up when she saw me. She was so excited, and I was just a crappy teenager, and I ignored her. I pretended I didn't recognize her. She looked so deflated when I didn't acknowledge her. Note, this was the 90s. My family moved a few times after that. I settled down in a different part of the country after university. I never made it back to that town. I've relived that moment for years now. Fast forward to one of those nights when I relived that moment, and I decide to look her up on Facebook to apologize. I find out she died 10 years ago in an auto accident. Since I found out her fate, I feel even more awful about that moment. Damn, this one is just because I feel like most of the stories here are things that people personally, internally blew out of proportion, even though it wasn't really that bad and everybody forgot about it. But this is totally just ugh. I mean, I hope this person doesn't continue to feel bad about this. Obviously, his, not interacting with her didn't have anything to do with her death or anything like that. That would be crazy. Imagine if there was some, butterfly effect thing, but I don't even want to go down that road. That's so messed up. But yeah, I don't want you to feel bad, Akumu, but this is a great example for, future generations. If you're a young teenager, or if you have siblings that are young teenagers, or kids, or nieces and nephews, or grandchildren, make sure they really think deeply about how they treat people, because in some situations, you never have a chance to apologize or take back what you did or said to someone. Alright, this one's short and sweet and very wholesome. Risk Lauderman says, in 7th grade, a cute girl asked me to sit next to her. I said my mom wouldn't let me sit next to girls. My mom said no such thing. Dude, I'm just like desperately trying to think of why you would conjure up such a response. Like, I'm guessing you were just nervous and you were like, what do I do? What do I just blame it on my mom. I can't do this. Alright, this one comes from Anon username 27. I was in the 4th grade and it was Valentine's Day. I was the new kid in school and this one boy had been picking on me all year. My 10-year-old self was very non-confrontational, so I wrote a paragraph on the back of his Nerd's Valentine explaining that I don't like it when he's mean to me, and I don't understand why he has to be. He couldn't read my handwriting though, and brought it to the teacher, who made me read it aloud to both of them. I think about that day every day of my life. He even ended up finding me online and contacting me to apologize a few years ago, but all I can think of is the cringe. Dude, I feel for you so hard, because it's actually a really, like, reasonable way to try and resolve a bullying situation. And if this was a movie, everybody would have cheered for you because you were, like, standing up to this bully and just being, like, straight up, hey, why are you doing this to me? You shouldn't be doing this to me. But as a person, myself, I was also bullied in real life. It doesn't really work out like this, and I can't imagine it was fun dealing with this afterwards. Alright, we got another sort of wholesome one, and then there's a super terrible one after this. Tree 6 House says, 4th grade classroom, we were having a face-off between students on who could name the capital of whichever state our teacher named. I had been on a roll getting a few correct in a row. Then the teacher says Kentucky. With all the enthusiasm and seriousness in the world, I scream Frankfurt. Everyone was dying laughing except me at the time. Looking back, it cracks me up that I was so upset about it. Let me just say that you are incredibly lucky that your name was not Frank. If your name was Frank, you would have been Frank Fart for the rest of your school experience. Like, you're pretty lucky that you got off easy in this situation. Alright, this one. 20XD61936 sends this one. Didn't send it to me, they just posted it on this thread. They posted this. I accidentally mixed up an inside joke with the wrong friend group with disastrous results. Friend group 1. The joke was when someone calls and asks who's all there, we would add Daryl to the list of names. Daryl wasn't a real person. The joke wasn't really funny and made no sense out of context, but I guess that's why it was an inside joke. Friend group number 2. I was hanging out playing some drinking games with a bunch of people that I hadn't hung out with for a while. It was kind of a get-together to remember a friend they had who had recently died in a car accident. I didn't know him that well, but I was always down to party. Anyway, the phone rings and the person who answered started listing off names. Sorting my cards for another round of presidents and buttholes, I offhandedly said, heh, and Daryl! It was the typical record scratch moment where everyone stopped and looked at me. Daryl was the name of the friend who had just died. This happened in 2002, and I still think about it all the time. I would be melting into whatever seat I was sitting in at that time. Like, I don't care if I was too drunk to drive, I would just start walking back to my house. Like, you cannot continue to be there after you've literally invoked the name of their dead friend. Oh, no. So now to my embarrassing story, and it actually is still embarrassing to share this with people. I feel like this is a legitimately embarrassing thing. Like, I don't think I'm overreacting. When I had a birthday once when I was in, like, 5th grade, so it would have been, like, 11 or something, and we all got together and, like, played baseball. I think it was probably, like 6 people on each team or something like that. Like, not full baseball squads, but my dad was pitching, and he was also, he was, like, the umpire. So I hit a ball, and he called it foul, and I personally thought it was fair, and I got very upset, and I was taking this stupid birthday baseball game so seriously that I ended up crying on my own birthday as an 11-year-old. It was like, I honestly looked back and I thought, like, Everybody is going to remember this. This is never going to leave me. Everybody's going to think I'm a little wuss because I cried over a baseball call on my... Oh, man, it was just awful. It really stuck with me badly. Let me know if you guys have anything like that. I feel like everybody has something. Like, I probably have more memories, but that's just the one that really stands out as me really thinking in the moment that nobody was ever going to forget that I cried on my birthday. Yeah, feel free to check me out on Twitter and Instagram. Those are both Q-Star videos. Twitch, that's twitch.tv/YourQ, as in the Q that belongs to you. Yeah, skate on the best of your abilities, guys. Make sure you're drinking more water, and I'll see you very soon. Peace out, Cub Scouts.